Ladies and gentlemen, greetings from Paris. I'm sorry I cannot join you in real time, but I wanted to share a few reflections to contribute to your important discussions throughout the Responsible Raw Materials Conference and its very topical emphasis on the role of mining in a just transition. I will focus on the geopolitics of clean energy commodities and the new axis of scarcity around the set of critical raw materials we need to achieve net zero, and the imperative to ensure that the sourcing, refining, and trade of these commodities is sustainable in the holistic sense of the word. I will also try to suggest how the EU can shepherd the process and wear the mantle of not only climate, but just transition leadership that caters to the rights of ecosystems and societies across the globe. Because only this can inform resilience in a context of climate, systemic, and governance volatility. From my vantage point, the just transition is not a cosmetic addition, but an absolute imperative for the net zero journey. Because a future society where we bath in clean energy solutions produced by invasive extraction industries and abusive labor practices impacting already marginalized communities will go against the instincts and notions behind the so cherished Sustainable Development Goals agenda. It is our moral duty to ensure that the radical decarbonization journey brings also a radical wealth redistribution, equitable governance, environmental consciousness, and true corporate accountability. The energy transition is undoubtedly one of the most significant trends in the EU and indeed the world today. And while most transition deliberations have focused on how to transform the energy mix, a key issue is to examine the geopolitical consequences of the process and its holistic sustainability. The evolving energy mix will indispensably alter the geopolitical landscape and bring new security risks, institutions, and shifts in established alliances. Global energy value chains, capital and commodity markets, but also political relationships and alliances have already experienced unprecedented gyrations. The transformation will also have a dramatic impact on issues related to mining rights, standards, and social equity. Yet, those seem not to garner sufficient attention. Visceral decarbonization rhetoric emphasizes a world of plenty, a world of security and independence. Consecutive COPs, including the latest COP26 in Glasgow, all produced a plenitude of clean energy and emissions reductions commitments, but failed to even mention issues related to the minerals, metals, and rare earths necessary to produce them. Yet, all scenarios on demand growth clearly show an explosion of demand for the likes of copper, lithium, and platinum, inadequacy of supplies, and dubious standards on their sourcing and refining, not to mention labor and human rights practices. These systemic emissions might result in a grave danger to the Sustainable Development Goals agenda. Because beyond the much publicized impact of the decarbonization on the oil and gas economy, the new energy systems will be impacted by other, less visible, yet even more dangerous trends: invasive mining, dispossession, rights abuses, resource scarcity, land use competition, increasing global water stress, instability and conflict, ecosystem depletion, and surpassed critical tipping points that will all impact significantly the European and global transition trajectories, but also trends related to global equity and just transition. Renewable energy is often perceived as providing energy independence and peace. Wind and solar are omnipresent and supposedly available to all. Nevertheless, a key issue to consider is who controls the land of siting, the access to the key components necessary to produce clean energy solutions, as well as the refining and supply value chains. And China is emerging as the global powerhouse in this domain. Apart from spending on clean energy more than the US and the EU combined, producing 65% of the global batteries and boasting the majority of wind, solar, and EVs share globally, China controls the mining, refining, and processing of 85% of the rare earths used for wind turbines. Is the main producer of minerals such as germanium and indium used for solar panels, and graphite used for fuel cells and batteries, and accounts for more than half of the global lithium chemical production. In the EU, we rely for 98% of the rare earth supply, refining, and recycling of magnets on China. This has both soft power implications, but also economic and hard power ones. Protectionism, restricted rare earth supply, technology decoupling can compound geopolitical rivalries, but also worsen rather than improve excavate, mining and refining practices, labor and human rights standards, and stall attempts to ensure just and equitable distribution of assets and yields. Some new players will be empowered, but many will be disempowered. Developing countries are often cited as amongst the biggest winners in the energy transformation, leapfrogging to decentralized, distributed renewable energy generation that would nurture an effect of empowerment and growth. But this hides important power play involving dangerous debts, reliance on foreign expertise, and sacrificing domestic autonomy. Resources in Africa often are not captured in a sustainable way, leading to severe ecosystem infractions. Economic mismanagement, poverty, and growing wealth inequalities are recurrent. Droughts, floods, desertification, and rural disruption will compound existing tensions over unbalanced water and energy resources, leading potentially to climate-related conflict and migration. Elites' capture of assets will also intensify labor infractions and human rights abuses, and worsen already dire situations around mining grounds. How resources would be captured in a way allowing sustainable development in Africa, Asia, and beyond is not solved. The food, water, energy nexus garners rhetorical attention, but not much pragmatic solutions to avoid escalating competition amongst and for these essential resources and their capture by unscrupulous elites. To an extent, the future of the sustainable development agenda might be compromised. And the most pressing leadership challenge of our times is to understand these tensions, build anticipatory foresight, and plan solutions to achieve carbon neutrality while ensuring global prosperity, stability, equity, and justice. Because a transition that does not cater to justice and vulnerable communities' empowerment would also discredit its own instincts of sustainability and perpetuate structural problems related to exploitation. This shows that now more than ever, the foresight in terms of potential barriers to the successful unfolding of the transition have to be embedded in the system, also in terms of justice and equity distribution. What is necessary going forward is a reassessment of the energy security notion. It remains entangled with physical supply, conspicuously exposed as deficient today. But going forward, energy security is related to the energy system resilience to intermittency, extreme weather and cyber risk, conflict and critical minerals supply, and our capacity to anticipate, withstand, and recover quickly from a supply shock or violent energy market swings, and ensure that communities across the world where key resources are located benefit from their endowment. Europe's role is to trailblaze solutions and galvanize action to scale up the just energy transition mantle beyond core regions in transition to critical minerals, metals, and rare earth regions in ascent. Strengthening EU's multilateral engagement and cooperative alliances on responsible mining seems exigent. The Union has embarked in the past few years on a series of initiatives, such as the European Raw Materials Alliance, Innovation Partnership, and Resourcing Platform, and regularly produces critical raw materials lists. Yet, to be truly sustainable, such initiatives should be exported across the value chain and beyond Europe. For this, I argue for the creation of a coherent definition of what responsible mining for critical raw materials is. Develop and try to export agreed standards and norms for business conduct, and create collaborative industrial ecosystems with partners on sourcing, refining, and processing of materials with improved technology and standards for traceability. The Global Gateway Initiative could become a key tool for this. Here, two things seem of utmost importance to me. First, avoid the green developed and climate broken developing world divide. Beyond climate financing for the developing world and deals to avoid the lock-in effect of fossil fuel technology, the EU could pursue agile bilateral deals and responsible mining for debt swaps. Second, I often argue for the establishment of virtuous partnerships with the African Union on responsible mining. The EU can facilitate the continent move beyond exploitative, invasive mining with humongous environmental and social infractions to modern industrial growth and green tech EU-AU clusters with responsible mining, corporate accountability, and robust community empowerment programs with embedded gender and youth elements. Nobody else offers this to Africa, and this can serve as a powerful lever to facilitate equitable growth, community empowerment, and termination of systemic social and environmental exploitation. Here, concrete offers, partnerships, and financing are exigent, and the EU and the AU should negotiate, co-design, and co-deploy such initiatives collaboratively. In addition, co-innovation on substitution and reuse and building localized recycling capacities can reduce the explosive demand and provide new revenue options for mining communities. I'm convinced that only such transcontinental collaborative initiatives can provide a value-based, sustainable, and society and ecosystems respectful alternative to invasive and irresponsible mining practices for net zero. So, to conclude, the race of renewable energy might create new resource scarcity and competition thereof, redefining geostrategic importance of regions and promoting new political alliances, as well as hidden dangers for ecosystems and societies from the skyrocketing demand for critical raw materials. This all could stall many facets of the sustainable development agenda. And today, it is exigent that we build a holistic picture on the complex dynamics surrounding the global energy transformation, to not only emphasize the opportunities, but prepare to tackle and avoid the risks, and make the just energy transition a global priority, encompassing ecosystem, societal, and economic levels. And I hope that the community united by this conference would be instrumental in informing and accelerating the process. And on this note, I thank you for your attention and look forward to the insights this conference would bring.